The people may not get it right all the time, but the state remains the state, the republic remains the republic. So we have elected not only to stand with the people, but much more importantly, much more enduringly, to stand with the republic. Colleagues, the purpose of this bill that we've gone through really is to broaden the tax base of our country and to increase revenue mobilization domestically. I'm not too sure that any one of us in Parliament would disagree, minority, majority, would disagree that where we are as a country, we need to recline and look inwards to see if it would be possible for us to increase revenue streams from within our own household, which is what the E-Levy seeks to do. The matters that should really confront us as members of Parliament is what we are going to apply the monies on. The bill provides that they are going to apply it to the development of physical infrastructure. That's number one. And we do know that almost every week, in particular on Fridays, questions are filed relating to the development of roads in the various constituencies. Questions are filed relating to the construction of boreholes, the delivery of potable water, extension of electricity to places hitherto unserved, construction of health facilities. And so we are not in disagreement. I'm not sure that any MP would disagree that we should apply this money, or the monies that would ensue from the E-Levy, to the construction of physical infrastructure, also digital infrastructure, and tackling high unemployment in the country. The bill provides that the monies will be used to grow entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs. I'm not sure that anybody in Parliament will be against this. And we are escalating our debt burden, going out to borrow. If we have to do revenue mobilization inside the country, what it means is that we will curtail the rate of borrowing and thereby curtail the increasing debt stock. Who in Ghana, which MP would say that he doesn't like this? So, colleagues, I believe we are adding them on these matters. Now, what Parliament ought to be looking at is reportage. How much is coming? How are we applying those revenues? And I think that Parliament's oversight responsibility should come into play, which is why what we're discussing, which were put together by one of our colleagues on the other side in the form of amendment. He left the chamber not to move the amendment. But because we had bought into the spirit, even in his absence, we brought it back to the front burner and moved that amendment relating to Parliament's oversight responsibility. But the minority are making a fanfare of the fact that we are saying that because of the application of the E-Levy is an all-in-all facility. It's going to operate like Akubam, Utiya Akubam, Unayo Akubam. The funny thing of it was that when the ranking member was reciting this poem, when he said Akubam, Utiya Akubam, instead of touching his head, he touched his ass. Utiya no was on the top, was on the tea. That's on the funny side. But why are they saying that? You see, the E-Levy, we are not creating a fund for the E-Levy, like the Petroleum Revenue Fund. Now, the revenues that would ensue from the taxes will be commingled with other revenue sources into the consolidated fund. So bits and pieces of it will go into health, bits and pieces of it will come to Parliament, bits and pieces of it will go to education, bits and pieces of it will go to roads. But for roads, we are insisting that perhaps when we come to it, we may even demand of the finance minister to declare to us that maybe about 20% of it should be dedicated to road construction. So, colleagues, if the money, the revenues are going to be commingled with others into the consolidated fund, and you need money for the construction of maybe a health facility, some amount is given to you. It contains some aspects of the E-Levy taxes. You need to construct an educational facility. The money that is given to you contains some bits and pieces from this. One would be right in saying that, yes, it's going to provide some space for the construction of physical development, physical infrastructure. So when they say that, oh, well, you make it appear as if it's going to assist or maybe be the cure or ailment facility. The explanation is just what I've given. But beyond that, colleagues, we have related to this. The finance minister presented the budget statement and economic policy on November 17th. Can I send you to go and tell her to not to interfere with this? He's talking about death. He doesn't know that E-Levy has been resurrected. Audiovisual department. Audiovisual department.
Shall we just endure for some few minutes? I'm sure in the next 5 minutes.
Laying state and filing passes on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 at his residence at Asankwibwa from 4 a.m. Burial services on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 at Immaculate Catholic Church at 9 a.m. Interment is on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 at Roman Catholic Cemetery at Asankwibwa. Final funeral is on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 at the Nana Buado Park, Asankwibwa at 1 p.m. and Thanksgiving services on Sunday, 3rd April 2022 at Immaculate Catholic Church at 7 p.m. Honorable members of Parliament and staff who started the funeral are hereby informed that Bass will pass the office on Saturday, 2nd April 2022 at 4 p.m. Thank you.
I guess we can begin here. So as I was saying, the Minister for Finance came to the House on November 17th to present the budget statement and economic policy of government. And there were some developments, backwards and forwards. But as the Hansard provides, the budget statement came to be approved by the House. Now, that budget statement and economic policy contained the E-Levy proposals. Parliament approved of the budget statement and economic policy. What it means is that Parliament approved of it, the E-Levy, in essence, when it approved of the budget statement and economic policy. Now, subsequent to that, as I've told you, the anticipation is that the revenue stream will feed into the consolidated fund. Now, from the consolidated fund, the anticipated revenue, we have made allocations to the various ministries, departments, agencies, and sectors of the economy, including the constitutional and statutory creatures. Now, the estimates, the revenues allocated to these sectors and constitutional and statutory creatures includes the anticipations from the e-levy. Referrals were made to the various committees who went and considered these allocations, the estimates of revenues and expenditures. They submitted their reports. And when the reports came to Parliament, the entire House approved of these estimates made to the various sectors, the MDAs, the constitutional and statutory bodies. We approved of them by consensus and some by unanimity. After we had done all these things, as a second step, we came to the third step. The third step was the amalgamation, the consolidation of all these estimates into what we call the appropriations bill. The appropriations bill was referred to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee composed of members from both sides of the House. And when they went to consider the appropriations bill, fed by revenues, including the e-levy tax revenues, the Finance Committee came to report to the House that there was no disagreement and that the House should approve of their report unanimously. You remember that day when the chairman of the Finance Committee, the Honorable Kogu Kwatin, submitted the report of the Finance Committee, and seconding the report, the ranking member then suggested that because there was no disagreement whatsoever, nobody should be given the opportunity to speak to the report. We should adopt the report of the Finance Committee on the Appropriations Bill unanimously. And that indeed is what Parliament did. Now, because the e-levy is a new tax that is being introduced, it must be foundationed on the appropriate legal regime, which is the e-levy bill that we dealt with today. Now, fancy the situation having undertaken these three exercises. One, approving the budget. Two, approving of the various estimates. And three, the passage of the appropriations bill. Could anybody turn around to say that we disapprove of the law to support the e-levy that we have already approved of in these three enterprises, the three transactions that already were done? What would have been the input? The implication would have been, one, either Parliament didn't understand what they were doing, which is why we had passed those three stages, or perhaps we had no idea the import of that exercise of passing the e-levy bill. I'm happy that today, having listened to them, and you were there in the chamber, I'm not too sure that the insistence was that the e-levy is a nuisance, let's jettison it. If you listen to the minority leader, for instance, and I want to quote, he said, e-levy, the ranking member, he said, the e-levy alone cannot cure all our problems. When he was talking about the Akubam issue, he said the e-levy alone cannot cure all our problems. What does this mean? By necessary implication, it means that the e-levy can cure some problems, which means that he admits that it's good somehow. But then the minority leader then added that we should come with a more comprehensive policy. So it means that they admit that it is good, but perhaps it's not an excellent piece of legislation. So you move from the known to the unknown. Is that not the case? So, distinguished colleagues, I think we've done what is good for the country. But as a House, we should also position ourselves to monitor the proceedings. It's been quite a while. The effect of this lethargy on the economy has not been good. Over the past 3 months, there was considerable uncertainty about our revenues. And Ghanaians, investors, and even the GRA was worried. Which explains why there was a lot of speculation in the system, which speculation led to the downgrading of us, and also the downward spiral of the city, which raised the cost of living. So the passage of this bill, really, you heard the minority leader when he related to the cumulative effect of what is happening, and that people should know that we are going to add to the back of an existing regime, which is 2% plus 1.75, he said. Maybe he didn't know that the rate was going to climb down to 1.5. But he says it was going to go to 3.75. Now, be that as it may, what it means is that already we have 2% in the system, which 2% is not coming to government. It's feeding the economies of those companies that are collecting these monies from Ghanaians, the telcos. And they are not building our roads for us. They are not building our hospitals. They are not building our schools. They just collect the monies. Enterprises that were not set up to conduct the business of banks, they are now into banking, collecting monies, and then taking them to their home countries to grow their economies. Government or the Ghanaian state now want to own a stake in this, have some money to develop our economy. Would any person who is patriotic say to us that, no, don't do it, allow them to take the money to develop their economies? I don't want you to introduce any law that will compel Ghanaians to pay to develop our countries. Would any patriotic person say that? Distinguished colleagues, I think we have seen enough. We have heard enough. I don't want to rehash what you all witnessed, but we should all be thankful to God Almighty, be thankful to colleagues, the NPP members of Parliament, and I would say, to the extent that our colleagues were not raucous, they were in attendance and no such infractions came, I think we should also be thankful to them that we had a smooth conduct of business in the House, and we are moving the agenda of national development forward. I thank you once again for attending to this.
Your question. Let's move forward. I guess you're all exhausted and had enough for the day.
You want to go and watch the match?
Yes, and the Blasters are playing. Okay, so a question per person, please. Yes, you have to endure with us. One man, one machete.
So that more people can ask questions.
I see your hand up. Okay, the lady first.
We wanted to find out if there was, even though some of them admitted it on radio that it was going to be before the House today, I wanted to find out if there was a formal communication.
All right. My name is Kweku Sechidan, so I report for GhanaMPs.com. Just want to find out how soon will the bill be sent to the presidency for assent?
Honorable, my name is Abdallah Mohammed from Metro TV. My brief question is, I just want a little education on the quorum, whether you had the right numbers in the House to pass. Yeah.
Question number 1. E-Levy a surprise on Parliament? No, not a surprise, because you were here last Friday when the business statement came to be presented, and the House was informed that bills may be presented. And this is a bill that was presented. And don't forget, this bill is not a new bill that's been introduced. It has been with us since December last year. Kesechi, what's the other name? Kwekusechi Danso. When would the bill be sent to the President for his assent? As soon as possible, as soon as practicable. You heard the Speaker speak to, usually when bills are passed by Parliament, we go through to ensure that the commas, the I's and the T's have been crossed, and so on and so forth. I guess we can spend tomorrow, today because of the match, I'm not sure that's what committee can meet. Maybe after the President's address tomorrow, a space would be found for it to be done. So I guess by the close of the week, it will be ready for the President's assent. Quorum. Is there any issue about quorum? I'm not sure that quorum was an issue. There was quorum. Parker, certificate of agency. And you're asking whether the consideration was still on the lines of the certificate of agency. And certainly so. That is how come the procedural motions were stood down. Because it's been determined by the committee, the relevant committee, right, that the bill is of an urgent nature. The relevant provisions shall have to be stood down. The other day, there was this quibbling about procedural motions, and I was telling them that it was not required. Once the committee makes the determination, and perhaps it will be relevant for me to read the appropriate. Yes. Article 106 of the Constitution, clause 13 provides, where it is determined by a committee of Parliament appointed for the purpose that a particular bill is of an urgent nature, the provisions of the preceding clauses of this article, other than clause 1 and paragraph A of clause 2, shall not apply, and accordingly, the President shall get into the bill on his presentation for assent. Right? This is what I related to, and the Speaker upheld the point that I made, that because it's been declared by the committee, and let's not forget, once the committee makes the declaration, the matter is taken out of the hands of plenary. It's not for plenary to agree or disagree with the committee. Once the committee makes a determination, that's it. And the committee has made a determination, which is why the other provisions had to be stood down. Ejuna Mensah, I think the matter that you raised relates to quorum, and there's no issue about quorum. Thank you very much.